If you rode in this taxi, you remember when America was different. Before ride shares, before smartphones, before everything became digital and disposable. Back then, taxis had faces, personalities, and sounds. The low rumble of an idling engine, the familiar squeak of the seat springs. It was a time when your city felt like your home, and when a car wasn't just a ride, it was a part of your story. That car was the Checker Marathon. Born in Kalamazoo, Michigan, and built with the kind of American muscle and simplicity that made it one of the longest-running car designs in U.S. history. From 1961 to 1982, the Checker Marathon patrolled our streets like a faithful old friend. It didn't turn heads like a Corvette. It didn't need to. What it did was simple. It showed up. Rain or shine, summer or winter, holidays or weekdays, it was always there, sitting curbside, waiting for the next fare. You remember what it was like to ride in one. The door was heavy, solid. You had to really pull it. It shut with a thunk, not a click. The back seat was enormous. You could stretch out your legs, slide across the bench, even lie down if the cabbie let you. Some marathons had those little fold-out jump seats. It wasn't comfortable in the luxury sense, but it was roomy, practical, and safe. Like being inside a steel shoebox that somehow felt warm. The Checker Marathon wasn't built to impress. It was built to last. Thick sheet metal panels, rigid steel bumpers, and a chassis that could take a pounding on cobblestones or potholes. And the best part? The design barely changed over 21 years. Imagine that. While every other car was chasing trends, the Marathon stayed the same. Boxy, upright, and ready to work. Why? Because it worked. There was no need to fix what wasn't broken. Under the hood, the early Checkers came with Continental inline-six engines, but by 1964, they were fitted with Chevrolet's rock-solid small-block V8s. You could get a 3-speed manual or a 3-speed automatic transmission, and while it wasn't going to win any races, it could haul 7 passengers and their luggage without complaining. Fleet mechanics loved the car because parts were easy to find, and everything was accessible. No hidden sensors or complex electronics, just wires, bolts, and sweat. Checker didn't just make taxis. They offered personal cars, too. Sedans and wagons that looked just like the cabs, only without the meter. Some were sold to large families who wanted durability over flair. Others became fleet vehicles for governments, airports, or funeral homes. And then there was the Aerobus, a stretched-out version with 6 or even 8 doors, capable of carrying up to 12 people. It looked like a limousine built by a mechanic. Strange, maybe, but it worked. You probably didn't even notice the Checker Marathon had a name. Most people just called it the cab. It was so woven into everyday life it didn't need branding. You hailed it by waving your hand, not by pushing a button. The drivers were characters, part chauffeurs, part philosophers, sometimes a little grumpy, but always part of the ride. Some had rosaries hanging from the mirror. Others had CB radios, snacks, or even tiny TVs mounted to the dash. No two rides were the same. And the stories these cars held? Oh, the stories. First kisses in the back seat. Job interviews you were late to. Rainy nights when the heater took too long to warm up. That feeling of safety when you finally got inside one after walking 5 cold blocks in a January snowstorm. Checker Marathons were there for all of it. Silent witnesses to 1,000 ordinary, beautiful moments. They were also movie stars, in their own quiet way. Remember Taxi Driver? That's a Checker. Blue Collar, Mad Men, and even Seinfeld, all featured that iconic shape in the background, always reminding us of a city that never truly slept. In New York City, the yellow Checker was as iconic as the Empire State Building. In Chicago, they were everywhere. In smaller towns, they were harder to find. But when you saw one, it meant the city was alive. Checker Motors, the company, was small but mighty. Founded in the 1920s, They had one goal: make durable, reliable taxis. They didn't care about trends. They didn't chase style. They focused on substance. That's why their cars were easy to repair, built to take a beating, and able to run for decades. There are stories of checker marathons logging over 500,000 miles. Try that in a modern hybrid. But time caught up. In the late 70s and early 80s, the world changed. Emission standards tightened, gas prices soared, aerodynamic design became king. People wanted smaller, lighter, faster. The Marathon was none of those things. And in 1982, Checker Motors made its last car. Quietly, without much fanfare, the Marathon disappeared from the assembly line. The factory in Kalamazoo stayed open for a while longer, building parts for other companies. But eventually, it too fell silent. And like a good book with no sequel, the Checker faded into the past. Except for those of us who still remember. You remember more than just the car. You remember how the city felt, the rhythm of footsteps on sidewalks, the echo of distant horns, the way you could trust the driver behind the wheel without needing an app or a star rating. You didn't swipe a screen. You raised your hand. You didn't need heated seats or Bluetooth. Just a cab, a destination, and maybe a good conversation. Think back to how wide the doors opened, wider than anything on the road today. How easy it was to slide in, even with groceries or a suitcase in hand. The soft thump as the door shut behind you. The hum of the engine beneath your feet as the city moved past your window. That little light on the roof. Red if it was taken, off if it was yours. And the way raindrops raced down the glass, while the world blurred into neon and concrete. The Checker Marathon wasn't perfect. It rattled. It drank gas. It didn't have airbags or traction control, but it had something today's cars don't: presence. It was part of the neighborhood, part of the landscape, and part of your life. Today, you might see one at a car show. Shiny and restored. A collector's item. But to you, it's more than that. It's a time machine, a four-door memory, a symbol of an America that was slower, sturdier, and maybe a little more honest. If you rode in this taxi, you remember when America was different, when cities had soul, when cars had weight, when a ride meant more than just getting from point A to point B. It meant stories. It meant moments. It meant life. And maybe, just maybe, the old Checker Marathon is still out there, waiting at a curb, engine humming, ready to take you home one more time.